Okay, the board will now reconvene the public meeting at 6:29 PM and take action on the matters discussed in executive session. Just so folk are aware, we already opened the meeting before executive session. That's why you're not going to hear me say that whole beginning part. Okay. So does anyone wish to make a motion, or did you want to say anything?
Sure. I think just before we move to a vote on actions from executive session, I just wanted to disclose that I have had a conversation with the complainant in the case and had conversations related to examples of instances and then coming back and looking at where would that appropriately fit in terms of policy or other. I don't think that those conversations would influence my ability to vote objectively in this situation, but did want to share that with other members of the board for input or feedback as to whether I should move forward with a vote or abstain.
I would consent to your ongoing participation.
Thank you, Shauna. Does anyone wish to make a motion?
I vote that the board not hold a hearing on this matter, but that we review process for, I think I'm gonna need help with this.
The process is implicated.
Now the process implicated, yeah.
Okay, can you restate it so it's super clear? Sorry.
I vote that the board not hold a hearing on this matter and that we review the process that was implicated.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It has been moved by Chris and seconded by Judah. Is there any further discussion? Okay, it has been moved by Chris and seconded by Judah that we do not hold a hearing and look into the matters that were implicated in, is that,
Yes.
can you, I'm like, did you write it down for Kim?
No, I did not. I apologize.
Oh, gosh. Okay, let's write it down. Let's, I need to overturn the, we're not gonna vote yet, because we
I'm
need to, we
sorry.
need to write it down, so it's very clear.
Mhm. That's what I said. Oh, okay. Okay, are you ready?
Yes. Let's, we're gonna redo this. So does anyone wish to make a motion?
Yes, I do, actually. I move that we not hold a hearing, but that we review the processes that were implicated.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Chris and Judah. Has been moved by Chris and seconded by Judah. Is there any further discussion?
I have.
Yes.
This is a little bit, I never can be 100% sure how to do this part because we can't talk about more specifics. The motion says review the processes implicated, which it feels vague enough to me that I'm not 100% sure what we're saying we would be doing. Is there any way to tighten up and be more specific, or?
You can make a friendly amendment. No?
Well,
Yeah, but you could propose an amendment to the motion, so we don't have to redo it again.
I'm not 100% sure exactly what I would be proposing to be different because I'm not entirely, I'm wondering if we can unpack what we mean by review the processes so that I know some sense of what that would mean before, because maybe you're already thinking that, but it feels like I don't know how I would know if we did that successfully.
Mhm.
And so I'm with it conceptually, but I'm wondering if we need to reword and narrow down a little bit more what we are saying we will be doing.
Do you have something, Ryan?
Since I would be working with staff to implement based on that motion. What I would anticipate doing is looking at the way we identify case managers and supports for students. So to me, I have clarity in what I think is my next step.
So did you still want to make a friendly amendment, propose a friendly amendment around processors related to case managers?
I feel comfortable that Ryan's interpretation of it is what I would be expecting we would be doing. And so
Okay.
since he has said that on the record, I don't think we need to go through the motion of that. I'm good.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Has been moved by Chris and seconded by Judah. Chris, can you reread the motion, please? Thank you.
You know I'm never going to make a motion again, ever. I move that we not hold the hearing and that we ask for review of, we review the process implicated.
Thank you. And Chris, how would you like to vote?
Aye.
Judah?
Aye.
Shauna?
Aye.
Therese?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That passes unanimously. Okay, thank you all for your patience as we got through that. We also had things, our processes changed on opening meetings too, so it's been that kind of evening for us tonight. The next item on the agenda are board member reports. Do any board members have a report they would like to make? Okay, good.
I had the wonderful opportunity of attending school lunch, National School Lunch Day, and I got to go with Brian to CHS, where we sat and had lunch with several students. And it was just, I mean, it was very exciting to see at the high school level how many kids, a lot of kids came by and stopped, talked to us. It was just, it brought me a lot of joy, and I appreciate having the opportunity to be at the high school. And then I can't remember if I spoke about the housing, Dev Northwest. Did I already talk about that? The opportunity I had to listen to their presentation about the housing complex that's going in Southtown that is going to be affordable housing for some of our families. And it was very informative. They did a big shout out to Ryan about his work in the community about trying to promote affordable housing in our community and for our families. And so it was really exciting to see what is being developed in Southtown. So, and then the other thing, I know several of you might be talking about the event we went to yesterday, the regional meeting at the ESD. Sammy, again, always does such an amazing job informing us all the updates of what's going on around the state and with OSBA. And it was very informative. It was great to connect with other board members from our region. Lou did an amazing job presenting about an election that's coming up, and I highly recommend that if you haven't voted yet, that you do. And I have the little QR code that can help you lead to that. So, thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Any other board member reports? You got Sammy?
On the notes of housing, Ryan and I think Chris and I also visited one of the examples of developing workforce housing that the Boys and Girls Club have implemented. I believe the paper did an expose about it. It was really great to see. It was in my neighborhood, and knowing the model incentivizing workforce to come to Corvallis, stay in Corvallis, and serve the children who are benefiting from the Boys and Girls Club is just a great example. And it opened our eyes into what we could do as a school district, and hopefully what could the city help with in order to have that model on a larger scale. So really excited about that potential and seeing that model, and alongside with the examples that Chris mentioned, I have really good hope in turning the curve around affordable housing in Corvallis.
Any other board member reports? Okay. I will do my report. I was able to attend the Delta meeting, which is always nice to meet up with everybody there and hear what's going on. And then I also attended a meeting about the new Indian education program to hear what plans are for this fall and then the upcoming, hopefully, year getting planned out too. I also went to the regional meeting for OSBA in Albany yesterday at the ESD, and that was great, as Chris said, to connect with other board members from our region and hear what's going on, especially I always like hearing about the legislative stuff, and that's kind of what was the centerpiece of it. So the legislative priorities for OSBA and all of those. So that was good. And that's basically all my report. And before we move on, I did want to take a moment as chair to just to recognize it may be a little bit of an intense evening for a lot of folk with national elections happening on this evening, and just wanted to remind everybody that no matter what our backgrounds are, political ideologies, we're participating in the democratic process, including this evening with our interim board selection. And so I know that there's a lot of emotions for a number of reasons, and I just wanted to acknowledge that and just remind everybody that we are all in our capacities here because we were trusted by the community to be here and help guide this process this evening as well, in addition to the everyday that we do as board members. And wanted to also give the shout out, since Monday is Veterans Day, that those processes that we're engaged with right now for democratic processes have a lot to do with service from veterans too. And so I just wanted to mention all of those things are kind of packaged around us right now. And I think it's good to acknowledge that. And before we move on to the next part, and also our timer didn't go off, so I have no idea. I'm usually really good at keeping track of. I just noticed it still said 10, so it's okay. It's and our next item is our OSBA and NSBA updates.
Thank you, Chair. So I would like to highlight in the packet, you'll find the information that Chris have mentioned, including the services and benefits that OSBA provide us. There are multiple asks that the board will need to make an action on, whether we would be supporting a Pride Caucus and whether we would be supporting changes to the bylaws of OSBA. And the last one is related to changing the dues structure for the membership. We haven't increased the dues since 1998. And with inflation and the increased demands to maintain the benefits we receive, this decision will be highly important for us to consider in the coming meetings. Also, you will see highlighted NSBA, the National School Board Association packet that includes the benefits and services we get as local district or as a state association. And last but not least, I want to remind you about this weekend. Thursday will be the pre-conference of OSBA convention. Friday, Saturday, the annual convention. I'll have the honor of opening up the meeting, and also we're going to have a distinguished speaker who was recognized in this room as the Superintendent of the Year for Oregon. And Chair, if I may have a point of personal privilege and invite whoever will be prevailing from our candidates to join the board, and will join the board by the end of this meeting, to work with Kim for arrangements to join us in this annual convention. This is a great opportunity to be in community with this board, learn from each other, and as a professional development and networking, but also to connect with like-minded and people who are serving the state all across our local communities. So with that also, I want to take just very quick moments of privilege and say thank you for running, thank you for applying. Unfortunately, because of the math, there is one person we will select, but that means a no will be handed to everybody else. And I did receive that no the first time I applied. And if I took that no for an answer, then that means I would not be here. So please continue to serve, and thank you for stepping up today in this important day. Our democracy depends, as the chair mentioned, on our participation, our work, on great public servants who are stepping up for this job, like each one of you. So thank you for doing that.
Thanks, Sammy. Any questions about Sammy's OSBA and SBA? Cool. Next item is the superintendent's report. Ryan?
Yeah, I just I narrowed it tonight just because I know there's a lot on the agenda. So it's just a couple of essential points I think are important for people to know about. The first one is my annual notice about the weather changing and inclement weather. As you know, that process includes Kim Patton and I up early in the morning driving around Corvallis, over Highland, out to CV, thinking about where our high schoolers drive, but also where our students are getting picked up by buses, always with the goal to make a decision by 5:30 a.m., which is not my favorite thing in the world, but I do it. And then also thinking about what we need to do if we need to do a late start. And then also just encouraging families to look at the map if they live in areas where there's snow routes. Those happen more often than a closure, and so just to have that information in mind is really important because we're at that time of year. Our next school board meeting is going to be at Linus Pauling Middle School, and that is because we have the first of our two dinners and opportunities to meet with school leaders to talk about what they're up to. This year, the format of their materials are going to be a little bit different. One of the things that we've been looking at has been thinking about our achievement in terms of a scorecard. So they'll be sharing with you both their objectives, their goals, the progress monitoring tools that they're using, and what progress they're making, and that's all cascading from the work you did in terms of the board goals. So you'll see alignment between what you've done in terms of our board goals, with what our schools are working on in terms of those goals and outcomes. So look forward to that, and just don't forget we'll be at Linus Pauling. We'll do that twice this year, and both of those meetings will be there because of the space just not being big enough. Next is just a quick update on Osborne. So with Osborne at this point in time, the decision has been made that they are going to need to drain the pool, to put shoring within the pool before they can go up to determine how much work needs to be accomplished by the engineers. So just know that that is where we are right now. So still not a real firm understanding of what's going to need to take place. But in addition, we've been able to find pools for our students, our high school teams to swim in. Our team from CV will be at Timber Hill in the outdoor pool, but it will be heated. And then our team from CHS will be at Clemens in Philomath. And a big shout out to all the community members who've helped us to make that possible. Again, as I shared before, most of their meets will be on the road, but it just works that the rivalry meet can be at Clemens, so a local pool for those two teams to compete. So that was a kind of a nice thing that I just learned yesterday. And then finally, today was the first day that our Arabic club started at Letitia Carson. That club has been going on for, I think, 4 years now, and they expect to have about 25 to 30 students participating. They have 2 new teachers who are helping with the club. One of them was a teacher in Syria before coming here, and the other is a student at OSU working to become a computer software engineer. So it's a great program, and it's just one more example of the ways that we support our students across the district. We have kids who come to us from homes speaking 60 different languages, which is often sort of overlooked in this community. So it's a diverse and really just incredible opportunity to support kids through things like Arabic Club to our DLI program. So again, it's just another great thing that happens here in CSD. So that is it for me, unless there's questions.
Thanks, Ryan. Any questions? Okay. I think I seen them draining the pool because there's a lot of water coming out of there the other day when I was going by the Boys and Girls Club.
That was just the rain.
That was not the rain. It was on top of the rain though. Okay. We're almost back on track on our agenda. Yay. And the next item on our agenda is public comment. Okay. Do I still need to read the whole? There are no comments, so the public comment period is not being opened. Yeah. It was not opened or closed. I didn't open the whole thing. I didn't read this whole, yeah. The next item on the agenda is our bias reporting update. And Melissa? Do you have slides? Okay.
Yay. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm here tonight to talk to you about the bias incident data from the 23-24 school year. You were provided with a report in the packet that essentially compares the year before to last year, so you could kind of see some trends and differences. I don't want to really go over that because you all can read it. I wanted to talk a little bit more about insights into the data and just kind of fill out the data a little bit more. The first thing I wanted to talk about were reporters, and what you saw in the data is that our CSD staff are reporting incidents more than 50% of the time. So what I wanted to give you as far as insights for that is that the most staff reports are coming from teachers. And teachers being the number one reporter is followed by a building administrator who is also reporting. This is important to us because this is where we're tracking data with regard to civil rights reporting is in our data system and in our bias incident system. So if a bias incident happens in Synergy, if a bias incident occurs and is reported in our Synergy student information system, that's great. We also want it in this reporting system as well. So we're practicing creating a habit of making sure that we're reporting in both of those places. The most common location for a bias incident continues to be the classroom. So it makes sense that the teacher is the person who is reporting the most. And I also wanted to point out the importance of the anonymous reporting, which was something that we talked about when we started this process. Fully 23% of our bias incident reports last year were anonymous. So giving just some insights into what's been happening, at the start of the school year at the Welcome Back Rally, we do a presentation on the district behavior guidelines. This is a promise we made to our unions that we would ensure that they knew about what the district behavior guidelines are, what their role is in that, and also present the document to them. This year, we decided to focus on two other aspects of behavior, particularly bias, and also sexual misconduct. So those two pieces of behavior were really important to kind of bring out in the Welcome Back training. We presented this slideshow after giving some data, like the data that you all saw in the report. We talked about what bias is. We talked about our goals for the year when it comes to bias incidents, interrupting it when it's occurring, supporting the student who's been harmed, providing educational opportunities, and showing our students that we take incidents seriously. That's going to be a theme you're going to hear in a couple of different slides as we move through the presentation, because that was really that was something that was said to me in a meeting, and I took to heart and have really been working to make sure that we're doing something to ensure our students know we take these incidents seriously. We talked about the racial language scale, which is a tool that we use to determine the level of severity when it comes to racial language and what our response will be. And we also ensured that we've finished up by reminding everyone they need to interrupt a bias language when it happens, offer support to impacted students, submit a bias incident report, and follow up with their administrator. I also spoke about the low number of high school reports, which I'm going to get into a little bit more later in this presentation. With types of bias reported, you saw those figures in your bias report, but I also wanted to flesh out a couple of things for you. When it comes to race and racial bias reports, that continues to be our largest area of bias, and you can see it's at 52%. The racial bias usually comes in the form of anti-Blackness, and it's most often the use of the N-word in the schools. In much fewer numbers, we are seeing bias references targeting our Latinx community as well as our Asian communities. When it comes to our LGBTQ+ community, the most common bias incident targeting that community included dead naming or using the wrong pronouns on purpose, referring to LGBTQ+ students or individuals as gross, unnatural, or wrong. These are quotes from our bias reports, and also the use of the F slur. So that's kind of explaining a little bit more about what you see on the slide there about gender identity and gender expression, and where we saw a lot of those bias incidents occurring. When it comes to religion, last year was, you could tell the numbers ticked up a little bit last year, and I think that there's obvious reasons why. We have a lot of things happening in the world that are very difficult, and we see that that has impacted our students who are both Muslim and Jewish in our community. Most religious bias targeted our Muslim and Jewish communities, and typically it was hate symbols like a swastika or a reference to Nazis, or we saw a lot of negative references to religious head coverings or equating Muslim students with terrorism. We also had 11% of our bias reports were about disability, and typically that is the use of the R slur. What we started this school year is a new complaint tracking program, and it looks the same on the outside. For the person who goes to the district website and looks to file a bias incident, it's the same button, it's the same page, all the information is the same. The button still exists in all Canvas pages for students in grades 6 through 12. So the report page looks the same, except that now it is a different interface. I'm really excited about this page and this reporting form, because if you look, it's kind of hard to see maybe in the presentation up there, but up in the top right is a toggle, so you can toggle it to Spanish. It can change, so it translates everything on the page. You can also magnify it if you need an accommodation when it comes to seeing the screen. This interfaces with our new program called Guardian. It asks all the same questions. Who are you? Who was harmed? Who's causing harm? Do you want to remain anonymous? Choose your type of bias. Tell us what happened, and have you told anybody? That's important in the investigation process. We are using this program to track due dates, making sure that our staff are getting their bias incidents resolved within the 10 days required. It alerts investigators that there's something for them to do in the program, so our principals get pinged in their email that there's a bias incident that they need to get on immediately once it's filed. Maintains all the records of all emails, so we have everything in one place, documents the response to the incident, and it really just kind of keeps us all accountable. We're just starting to learn about the analytics of the program, but I have a feeling this report next year will look a little bit different using the analytics that are available in the program. I gave you information about impact by level. What I did on this slide is broke that down by elementary, middle, and high, and the 4 types of bias that were reported. So you could see, obviously, race is going to be the highest for all of our 3 areas, but just kind of how that all broke out. Obviously, the high school report numbers indicated a problem. Following a conversation at DEDI last year about the significant decrease in high school reporting, I visited SAFE at CHS, and I want to thank Anna Zachariah for inviting me, welcoming me, and allowing me the time to talk to students in her space. And I asked SAFE students to tell me why they are hesitant to report incidents. The most common response was that they did not trust that the adults in the building would follow through with their report. They described a lack of trust based on not seeing consequences for students who had caused harm. We discussed that this is the hardest part of all disciplinary matters, not just a bias report. Students have a right to privacy, and that doesn't allow administrators to tell the world how they've been disciplined, and that's hard. The same is true for staff who cause harm. They have a right as an employee to keep disciplinary information private. So given that that is the foundation, we talked about what could we do to make this more visible to them, to help students to understand that administrators are taking this seriously, they are following through. And we agreed that there needed to be more of a visible follow-up with the person who was harmed after the report was filed. So we're going to talk a little bit about that here at the end. I wanted to show you some most recent numbers. I know this was a year-end report, but just in the last 2 months, I wanted to highlight how the numbers are breaking down by level again. You can see that in high school, we've already doubled the number of reports from last year. I don't celebrate bias reports, but I do celebrate that people are reporting and they are trusting adults to do something about it. So I wanted to make sure that I pointed that out. I don't attribute that to like anything that I've done. I just know that it's happening, and I know there's multiple factors that might be leading to it. And one of those, I think, is this wonderful slideshow presentation that was done in Advisor this year in September. High school students received this presentation on bias and bias reporting. Had a lot to do about how to recognize it in yourself, what the impact is on people and your school. A very clear statement about reporting bias and symbols of hate allows the staff to formally address incidents. What happens after you report, so that mystery of what happens when I put this into the computer program, where does it go? And then some sentence frames to help people to interrupt and speak up when bias occurs. The one thing that I took away from the high school students was that idea of that following up. So in our new bias program and process, we require building administrators to check in with the person that was harmed 1 month following the resolution of the incident. And what we're doing is asking them to ask these questions that you see up here of the student who was harmed. How have things gone in the last month? So just that simple check-in. Do you need any support with the person who's caused you harm? Like, are they still bothering you, or how are things going with that? And is there anything, and this is for the principal or a building administrator who's doing this, is there anything I could have done differently to resolve that bias incident? We hope that individuals who report and then have this check-in know that they're not forgotten in this process, that we want to know if this is continuing to happen, and that especially our students see that there's adults in the building who can be trusted to follow through. So that was our point in doing that. And that is all I have. Take any questions.
Thanks, Melissa. That's really helpful to see that all unpacked like that.
Thank
and
you.
I'm sure folk have questions. Therese?
Yeah, thank you. Some really great information for us to reflect on. My one question is, in the reports that are anonymous, is there a pattern around where they primarily, like what category they primarily fall in, or what grade level they primarily come from?
Not really. I kind of see them scattered across, but I can take a look at that and bring that to you. I haven't really noticed a pattern for that, and I want everyone to know too that when there is an anonymous report, we send that to the school and say, this anonymous report came in. You might have enough information here to do something with this, but at least maybe attach it to, just hold on to it because it might be connected to some other behavior that's happening. Thanks.
Judah?
This is more of a comment. I'm looking at the numbers about where bias incidents are occurring and how in the hallways it dropped from 12.5% down to 9%, and in the cafeteria it dropped from 7.3% down to 3%. And recalling last year the conversations with the middle school principals where most of the bias incident report come from, and all the strategies. Because last year we saw information about the clusters of bias incidents in the middle schools happening in the cafeteria and in the hallways. And all the new strategies that the principals are putting in. So I would like to kind of highlight that as the bias reporting incidents is how we found that information out, how the schools were allowed to do something different, and now we're seeing the numbers are dropping in those areas with those new strategies. And Chris and I had a chance to go to Sheldon, and we talked about their school neighborhood policy with the teachers outside. So just highlighting that it is important, and changes do happen, and we saw that in the middle schools, in the cafeterias, in the hallways, and I'm really excited to see that those numbers are down there.
Thank you. Let's celebrate the middle schools for that. Thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I know I've asked this before, but is there any way that we can, when we're looking at location of incidents, that we can look at sporting events?
Okay.
I know I asked it before and I can't remember what the answer is, but I'm just going to keep asking
It would,
because.
yeah, it might be more of that off-site,
Right,
like
it's probably
locator.
included in there, but
Yeah.
is there a way we can narrow it down and ask specifically if it's happening at sporting events?
Okay, I'll try to take a look. Thank you.
And then I have another question too about that, or separate. So when we're talking about target areas, are we, and I love that you did the slideshow with the students. I think that's just, so informative and helpful to students to be more aware and to educate them on how to respond. But I also wonder if during that time we can advocate more for allies. So we know that LGBTQ kids are being targeted. During that same conversation, can we also talk more about how advocates and allies is a very significant way of supporting that group of kids. Same with kids of color.
Okay.
And just, is there some way we can educate that at the same time, or just, talk about when, where they would have an opportunity to become advocates or to become allies as well?
Thank you. And I know that there's another slide I didn't show up there. That was those ideas of interrupt and echo. There's four, and I can't,
Right.
of course, think of them off the top of my head, but echo is the one where you act as an ally. And so that is kind of that opportunity, but this is even more specific. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks.
I think it's that's important for all the groups too,
Yeah.
because of interrupting bias. Yeah, it's good for all the fronts. But yeah. Other question? Are you saying yeah? Are you saying yeah? Okay.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and thank you for your continued thoughtfulness in, every year you come back with another report and share updates on process and support that goes along with that, both for students. And I'm curious about support for educators as well. You mentioned that staff are a high number of reporters.
Right.
And I had a lot of questions that came up for me on that. One was around our staff tending to report instances or incidents between students, between staff and students, or between multiple staff members, and how is that being handled in terms of support?
So I think a lot of these reports are, it's one of two things. The biggest chunk are an adult sees it, hears it happen, or it happens and somebody, a student comes to that trusted adult and says, this happened, can you help me with this? And then they work together to report. So I think that's what's happening there. I know that what you're talking about is something that we've discussed we have a bias incident response team, and we're talking about what we can do better to support staff and support students in this. One of the things we've talked about is, and I've heard Lou say this too, like, so you do the presentation in September, then what do you do? And so we've talked about what is a more regular reminder about bias reporting, how you can interrupt. Hey, it's this month of the year, which might be, we always see a heightened number or increase in LGBTQ bias during Pride Month. Like, those kinds of things are connected. So what can we do to continually remind and support staff about their role, and also like celebrate that they're doing it, and they're reporting, and that we're getting great data and we're making these changes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask one more? Same answer.
We reminded our leaders about this process just late last week, the beginning of this week.
Thank you. I was just going to ask about the follow-up process in terms of going back and following up with folks who have submitted a complaint or an incident. Are there any initial just feedback on that? How well it's
Yeah.
working? What's coming out of that?
I haven't looked through that data yet. I took a slide off of here that has a picture of what I can see in the background, and I can see all the bias incidents that have been reported are being investigated, where a resolution has been reached, and I have a few, and I have a new column that is at that 1 month check-in, and I haven't had an opportunity to go through that yet, but that's something I will bring back for our next report.
Sammy?
I want to share the appreciation of the progress that we're doing. Every time you report, we see a progress in our understanding and our evolution and how we're hoping to tackle bias in every form. So thank you. I did share with Kim a couple of graphical user interface feedback and also suggestions around the opportunity to add additional targeted class and blank area. Which was, and with a form, a link to the DOJ bias response form.
Oh, okay.
So they do have several additional boxes that one could choose. I think the overlap is very high, but the one that comes to mind immediately is additional target class, and you can specify in a box if there is anything additional targeted class you perceive that is involved. So that's the feedback, and the question that comes with it as well, Melissa, I have a curiosity about if there's any aggregation that goes to the DOJ bias response hotline or whatever they report that leans on what our school district is collecting or not.
We have to report to CDRC each year. At the end of the year, all of our behavior incidents. Most of these behavior incidents, when they reach a certain threshold, they're also reported into our Synergy, which is our student information system for behavior. So then that data is pulled and then it's sent up to the feds eventually. So it gets there. Yeah.
The federal, but is there anything with Oregon DOJ?
Oh, well, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have to report to ODE. I don't know what they do with it.
Okay, I'll ask about
Okay.
that. I'll take it from there.
Yeah.
Because my concern or opportunity for learning that I can see is if we have bias incidents of a specific pattern outside the district, in the community, and within the district, that could help us really tackle it in a different approach or
Right.
partnerships. So yeah, I would be
Okay.
wondering if ODE and DOJ are talking with each
Right.
other, if there's anywhere to
Okay.
see patterns. Thanks.
I want to go back to your additional button for the type of bias. We've had conversations with one of our middle schools who said that they're seeing an increasing number of bias incidents against students who are in poverty or students who, based on size, body size. And so they were asking if we could add something similar to what you're saying. What is an other button and how can we add something else there? We don't have to list every single thing, but what can we do to ensure that we're recording that as well?
Thank you.
Ryan has something. Can we add 5 minutes? Because we're like 20 minutes ahead now, so that's great.
I'm glad, I'm good. I just had a clarification on it's a text box is what I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted, I had the question, but it was cleared up.
I love that idea of sharing data too, because some people might be like, oh, I don't have to report it anywhere else now. When, yeah. I have a couple questions. You answered some of them through the presentation about the numbers, and I really appreciate the conversation you had with SAFE too. Seeing that number go so far down,
Yeah.
compared to what I was hearing, is a little bit concerning.
It was disturbing.
Yeah, that's really concerning. So, and it also continues to work with SAFE on this process, since that's the specific group of students that helped the district move to this change. And I think
Exactly.
that's really great to continue to conversate with them and say, okay, this is obviously something's going on. What is it? And then, because it shows the students that the district is listening to their feedback and actually doing something, because that's one of the main things is like, what's going on? So I just wanted to say that. And also that last question on the check-in, that is really great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that too, to ask if there's anything they could have done different,
Yeah,
because sometimes people are like, I wish they would have did that. And then
exactly.
that's an opportunity to follow up in another way. I do have a question about the trainings. I asked this last year too, about, especially because the number of anti-blackness reports, is there trainings on anti-blackness specifically happening for staff and students?
We've done it with leaders. We haven't done anything specific with students and staff yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would, just a thought that since this is the second year in a row,
Yes.
that's a high number, that may
Mhm.
be something to consider, very specific on anti-blackness. And the same about religion too, seeing
Yeah,
that number
that-
go way up and stuff, and
Yeah.
is reflective of things we've heard from the community
Mhm.
too. And so I think it'd be really helpful if we talked about
Absolutely.
those things with staff and students, but obviously that's a suggestion.
No, I love it. Thank you.
I think that was all my questions. Yeah, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
work on this and for, continuing to improve it too. Awesome. Okay. The next item on the agenda is consolidated action. As a reminder, the items under this portion of the agenda are for action. Does anyone have a question? Does anyone wish to make a motion about consolidated action?
Chair,
Yeah.
I move to approve consolidated action as presented.
Is there a second?
Second?
Has been moved by Sammy and seconded by Shauna. Is there any final discussion? Okay, has been moved by Sammy and seconded by Shauna to adopt the consolidated action items as submitted. Chris?
Aye.
Judah?
Aye.
Shauna?
Aye.
Therese?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That passes unanimously. Okay. The next item on the agenda is consolidated information. As a reminder, the items under this portion of the agenda are for discussion. Would anyone like to discuss an item in consolidated information?
I would. Could we bring up IGBAF-AR?
Any others? Okay, let's pull that one up. IGBAF-AR. So many letters.
What page number is that on in the packet?
104.
Thank you. Yeah, there it is, thank you.
You pulling it up, Shauna?
I am.
Okay.
Just taking a look at what section it would be helpful to look at.
And just so folk know which one we're looking at, it is the policy about, or the AR about special education IEPs.
So the question that I wanted to bring up was just around what's included in this policy, focused on IEPs. I noticed that there are sections on IEP meetings, IEP team members, and then also a section on, I believe it's team considerations. And given some conversations that have come up from families with questions around what happens related to when there's a needed change for team members on the IEP team or process around that, just wanted to bring up a question to the board for conversation around whether or not we think it would be helpful to have some mention of that here in the policy. I know probably the details of what happens related to that change might live more procedurally rather than in a policy, but if there would be benefit to including some language in the policy focused on the district having that information or clearly communicating it with families or where that lives.
Are you talking about section 6, the agreement to amend, or are you talking about, wait, you said a different one, huh?
I was looking at, well, section 3 has IEP team members, and I didn't see any mention of if a team member needs to change or there needs to be a change in that team. But there's also section 7, IEP team considerations and special factors. So I guess it's more of a question. Yeah, go ahead, Melissa.
I think if it's going to go anywhere, it would be in IEP team members, and because special considerations and special factors is a portion of the IEP, and I don't. When we think about what it is that you were asked to kind of take a look at, and you're asking Ryan to take a look at, I think that's where it fits better, is in IEP team members, because the case manager is a member of the IEP team.
Great, thank you.
So would there be also language in here that indicates with the modifications that they would be included in, because the team member modifications, it has that already in the AR, but it doesn't say who that team member, like if that's part of the team member, the case manager. So I'm wondering if that's something that can go in there too.
Need to, right.
Does that make sense?
Are they naming the special education teacher instead of the case manager?
No,
or?
it's just a it just has the language around about modifications, but it doesn't say what that means.
Okay.
If that makes sense. That it could include team
modifying the case manager.
Case manager
Okay.
/ team members. It might just need to say team members if the case manager is listed above and team members too,
Yeah.
but just something around there,
I like that.
because that's basically, that would be the modification, would probably go there instead of up top, right?
Yeah, I really think it belongs in number 3.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the modifications though, right?
Right.
Would stay in modifications.
It would, yes.
Yeah, but the adding that part that you're talking about
Right.
goes there too,
Goes
so it's
there.
both.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. We're on the same page.
Yes, got it.
Judah?
I was just wondering for this, do we need a section for students who are unaccompanied minors according to the McKinney-Vento Act?
In the AR,
Yeah.
Ryan?
Well, I don't know that we do, just because because it's law, and I think it's included in procedural safeguards, and so I don't think we need it. We don't, I think it would be redundant to have it here, but I'm gonna take that question, and I'd like a little bit of time to think through it and where that shows up.
Okay, and also, I mean, just across with this and the considerations for the supplemented, the 504, thinking about the McKinney-Vento students.
Go ahead, Chris.
I thought at one time the McKinney-Vento students were, if there wasn't a parent or guardian, that the McKinney-Vento director for the district was their person that would attend IEP meetings.
I don't know enough about that. It's very
There's
in the weeds.
there's a couple of different options. That's one of the options.
I was gonna say, that'd be a lot for one person to only be designated, it seems like, yeah.
Can I clarify what your point, Judah? So you, maybe I can say it back to you. You want to make sure that for students who have an IEP or a 504 plan that, and are receiving McKinney-Vento services, that information is easily, it's easy to find for people who are trying to better understand that. Is that what your
Yes.
intention was?
And to, it can be an intimidating process to be a student who's receiving services under McKinney-Vento, so that to make sure they're clear on what their rights are and who is advocating for them, so that their voice continues to be heard especially in those IEP meeting processes.
Thank you.
I have a question about that. Now that Judah said that, do the students in those situations that are unaccompanied have the right to end a IEP since they're unaccompanied? That's just kind of like I don't know if does that make sense? How it's
I
modified?
don't think until they're 18 can they revoke services, but I would have to double check on that one because that's
Okay.
a pretty, I haven't been the SPED director for a little while.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious about that because it seems like that'd be interesting because we were talking about how parents can modify the plans or say we don't want to do this anymore, but can students that don't have are not in that situation? That was just a question. Go ahead, Sammy.
Just on that note, I want to share JECBD
Okay.
gives the superintendent a big umbrella of authorization to develop administrative regulations to remove barriers to access, participation, and achievements by homeless students. So I don't know if there was anything under that. Did you see an AR under that?
I'm looking in the AR right now, on page 2. Each homeless, it says, it uses the term homeless student shall be provided services comparable to services offered to other students, including the following, and one of the following is special education and tag CTE.
Okay. I was just wondering about modifications.
Yeah.
Since that's the conversation right now, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so that's kind of be something to look into maybe.
right.
And I think the district's liaison shall ensure the student is immediately enrolled. It just talks about enrollment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's JEBC?
Yeah.
JECBD-AR.
So many letters again. There's so many letters in all the policies.
Jacob, Elephant, Charlie, Boy, Delta.
Yeah, I understood what you said. It's just a lot of letters. Either way, no matter how you say them, it's still a lot of letters. It is a lot of letters, but okay. Any other comments or questions about this one? Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Melissa,
Thank
for
you.
taking that one.
Yeah, thanks.
Do you need I do have a question. Is that gonna need to pull the policy too? Since we pulled the ARs or any connected pieces, do you think you'll be okay? Okay, cool. Okay, the next item on the agenda is our interim board member selection. I wanted to ask the board if you need a very short, very brief, perhaps bio break or like a 5-minute. Yes, we do. Okay, can we do a 5-minute? We're well ahead, so I feel comfortable doing a 5-minute. Thank you. That'll give everybody time to.
Take a breath.
I'm so nervous about this. This is a lot of pressure. Yes, and. I just want to take a nap for 5 minutes. Just kidding. These go way back. I didn't notice that. So, it's pretty. Why do they go so far back? Is that just so you can stretch? Yeah. So when I'm on YouTube, I'll just sit like this. I'll wear my sunglasses next time. Okay, welcome back, everyone. And we're gonna get started on our interim board member selection process. And we have all candidates here. Thank you very much for putting your names in and for being here. I was appointed through the interim process, so I understand it's a very intense process and probably a little nerve-wracking as well. So no matter what happens, I appreciate all of you putting your names in, and hope the outcome, whatever it is, that you find ways to still engage with us. For those of you who, obviously we can only pick one of you. And so we hope that you stay involved with the board throughout the year and as well.
We currently have one opening on the budget committee.
Oh, thank you, Ryan, so there's a way already to be involved. If you are not selected on, you can be on the budget committee. So Board Secretary Kim Nelson has already explained the process, so we'll get started with the initial screening to the semifinalists. And so that's how this process is going to work. So each board member is going to write down 3 names on one sheet, not three, one sheet. And so my question for the board, I wanted to leave this open, is do you want, after you pass them to me, do you want me to read them with your name, or would you like to restate them? Does that make sense? So do you want me to, like, if you, do you want me to announce them with your name, or do you want to announce them? That's the question. You have to.
Do you want to explain the whole process first, maybe?
Okay, so I'm gonna get all the slips, and so then I can read them and say who it is, or you can restate them. And so that's the first step. And Kim is keeping tally. And I think we should restate them ourselves. So the reason for passing them in first before you state them is to help us get all our thoughts down without hearing from our peers. So that's why we're sending them down to double check them. So in other words, you can't change your mind last minute. So this is who you would be writing down. So yeah. Do you have any more questions about that process? Because the next step, after we have the tally, the top folk are the ones who are going to be into the next step. Okay. Do you have a question, Sammy?
Yes. Top how many? 4 or 3 or 2?
The top 3.
Top 3. Top 4.
We're shooting for 4.
The top 4. Thank you, Kim.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We put 3 names down.
So just for clarification, I thought it was any person with less than 3 hash marks.
If we were to end up with only 3 people, it would move down to the people with 2. Sorry.
Okay.
For the record, if we only had 3 people with 3 hash marks, we would move down to whoever had 2. We want to have at least 4 to move into the semifinals.
It's fine. It's just first names. Are you done?
I do want to say that the names are randomly drawn and put on the list. There was no order. I just want everybody to know that.
Is yours written down already? Did you want to hold on to it, or? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm passing it down. Okay. Chris or Sammy, do you want to start? And then we'll go the other way the next time. Good.
So in alphabetical order, Adams, Bressler, Inman.
And what was the last one?
Inman.
Therese?
Inman, Mueller, and Bressler.
I have Wong, Inman, and Adams.
I wrote down first names, so now I have to flip my.
You can say their first names, they're on there
That's
too.
okay. I was going to say Wong, Holst, and Bressler.
Could you move, because I wrote down first names too. Wong, Adams, and Inman.
Adams, Wong, Inman.
Okay, so this is who we're moving into the next section is Bernie, Cassie, Vincent, and Amanda. And so I just wanted to say thank you to the rest of you who applied. The candidates who are not advancing are welcome to stay in the boardroom. And then Kelly is going to escort the rest of you to a small conference room, and we will be calling you back one by one to ask you some questions. And as folk are exiting, just for the rest of the board to know, we don't have enough questions for each of us. So since I'm doing a lot of facilitating and talking, I'm going to refrain from asking a question.
Lou, we're not at that part yet. This next section is where they come and give a 5-minute
right.
statement.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm really excited about appointing somebody, apparently.
Madam Chair, can I just reiterate my Chair, I'm sorry. Can I ask for a point of personal
Yes.
privilege? I want to reiterate the call for gratitude for the applicants who applied. Thank them for being here. And please apply for the budget committee. Again, that's how I joined. I stuck around for the budget committee and then I joined the next time. So really thank you for doing it and looking forward to seeing you in the budget committee.
I will also add in that there's no limit on who can run as well. And the election's coming up this spring as well.
Chair, just to add, I was wildly, unbelievably impressed by all of our applicants and by what their references had to say. So just a hugely qualified group.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I just want to echo that. Thank you to those of you who are still here in the boardroom. Thank you for putting your names forward, for serving the community in so many ways. And look forward to continuing to hopefully work together in some capacity in supporting the school. So thank you.
Okay. Yep. I need to correct, I said Wong for Bernie's name is the way I wrote it wrong, yeah. I'll tell him when he comes in. So before you get started, Bernie, I wanted to apologize to you for mispronouncing your last name. I wrote it incorrectly. I did. Missaid your name. I know how that is. So you will have 5 minutes to share information about yourself and why you want to serve on the board. Kim will be the timekeeper, and she'll announce when 1 minute remains and when your time is up. Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right. They go. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Bernie Wong, and I can't tell you how excited I am to be here tonight sharing a bit about my journey and why I wanted to serve on the school board. I spent over 30 years in public service, starting in the Navy and now at OSU. and I hope my experiences can help us start an honest and open conversation about what we can do for our students. I was born in Hong Kong, and when I was 10 years old, my family moved to Seattle. It was a huge shift, and I quickly learned what it meant to be a first-generation American, trying to find my place in a new world. As a teenager, I never imagined one day I would become a naval officer, especially back in the 80s when there weren't that many Asian Americans in that field. But I took on the challenge, and it shaped me in more ways than I could have ever imagined. After decades of deployments and constant moves, I finally retired as a Navy captain here in Corvallis in 2021 to be close to my children. It feels amazing to be in a place where I can finally put down some roots and to give back to a community that has already given so much to my family. Throughout my military career, I moved every 3 years or so. Every time I landed somewhere new, I knew I had to make the most of that place. I often told my mentees that to be effective, they need to engage with their communities wherever they were. Now, after years of packing and unpacking, I get to be here in Corvallis, where I've lived continuously longer than any other place since my teenage years. And and I'm really looking forward to be able to integrate to the community and contribute to this wonderful place. I have 2 children who have kept me closely tied to our local schools. My eldest is a senior at Crescent Valley High, and my youngest is currently a 6th grader at Corvallis Waldorf. That means they will be going to CV soon. Most of my children are not neurotypical, and watching my eldest thrive in the Corvallis School District has been inspiring. The support, the opportunities, the attention, they have all made a world of difference. And it is what drives my passion to make sure that every student, regardless of their needs, has those same opportunities to succeed. Being a Navy officer for over 3 decades, the one thing that also taught me how to adapt, manage resources, and create policies that would make a real impact. Now, I'm using those skills in higher education, managing budgets, and advising on initiatives at my little corner of Oregon State University, always with an eye on what's best for the students and faculty. One thing that's always been at the core of my work is commitment to diversity and inclusion. Here in Corvallis, I've had the opportunity to participate in a lot of the district's DEI programs, including Delta, and also as a member of the Theater Diversity Advisory Committee, TDAC. And I believe deeply in building environments where every student feels they belong. In the Navy, I often thought of myself as a bridge builder. My work as a diplomat and a Navy officer in a role that required interagency cooperation was all about connecting people, bringing together stakeholders, creating understanding, and ensuring collaboration. That's the approach I want to bring to the school board, building bridges, creating opportunities, and making sure every voice is heard. So thank you, and I look forward to more conversation with you tonight. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Brittany. Board members, remember we won't be asking any follow-up questions, so you can stay in the room now.
Okay.
Yeah. No?
No.
Oh, that's right. I am so sorry.
Okay.
Kim is keeping me on track tonight. There's so many steps in this process. Thank you. That's the next round. Yeah.
This one is
That mics also are still on.
They are on.
Yeah, that one's on still.
All right, can I test? Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you. So you'll have 5 minutes to share information about yourself and why you want to serve on the board. And Kim is going to be the timekeeper. She'll announce when 1 minute remains and when your time is up.
Excellent. So I am Cassandra Frank Inman. I go by Cassie and she, her pronouns. And I'm excited and honored to be here amongst this incredible group of candidates. So thank you for inviting me in. So I am the parent of an 11th grader at CV. I'm a community member. I attend Oregon State University as a PhD student in the School of Public Policy. And I am the spouse of a teacher at Garfield. And I work in the Office of International Missions at Oregon State. So it's a little bit about me. And I'm gonna practice breathing because it's nice to talk to a large group of people like this. I've been committed to student success here in the district since my son began at Letitia Carson Elementary. I served there as the PTA vice president and a policy advisor. I've served on a number of district committees, including the Boundary Review Committee. I believe that was in 2019, 2020. I have 3 missions that I'd like to share with you as a future board member. The first is to be a leader who listens, and my qualitative research training has given me the tools to listen, and that's to the data and the literature. So qualitatively through words and narrative, quantitatively through statistics for analysis. As policymakers, we really need to understand what the data is telling us so that we can make sound judgments and complete our analysis. But even more importantly, we really need to know how to listen to people. And that means having the patience and skill to listen to what folks are saying, to understand what they want from policy, and to know what is meaningful to the community so that we can ensure that our programs and policies are serving the district goals in a just and equitable manner and considering the realities of budget and decision making. My second mission is to work hard for our students, and policy work means having tough conversations and making daunting decisions. And I've sat in this boardroom listening on countless occasions over the last year, and I follow the tide of the news about public opinion when it comes to public education, and I know that hard decisions are coming, and that means working hard and demonstrating bravery in the face of budgetary and policy challenges. And some of these conversations will be tough. They're going to require courage and bravery and compassion and understanding, and I will hold these conversations as a future board member on behalf of our families and students. My background in policy and public administration scholarship and previously nearly 20 years in public relations and communications demonstrates my capacity to wrangle difficult and sometimes opposing perspectives in a rational and diplomatic manner because folks need to feel seen and heard. My third mission is policy scholarship and student advocacy. And as many of you know, I have been conducting qualitative district level research here in the Corvallis School District since 2017. I began with a project on an analysis of school lunch policy narratives. And I published my paper, Thinking Outside of the Lunchbox, in 2022 in the Journal of World Food Policy. More recently, I explored how food insecure families experience the end of the COVID-19 SNAP emergency allotments and pandemic EBT. These are programs which help our district families with food assistance when our schools made the pivot to remote learning and our school lunchrooms were shuttered. I believe that my record of research and student advocacy demonstrates my commitment to support students and families, the district staff and administrator, and in an equitable and measured fashion. And the truth is, look, if you're looking for someone who knows policy, who understands policy, I eat, sleep, and think public policy process theory, and I have been doing that for 7 years, and I believe that that training is probably the strongest attribute that I bring forward. And I look forward to learning how I can further contribute to the schools, the students, and staff here in Corvallis. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Cassie. And board members, remember we won't be asking any follow-up questions, so you can head back with Kelly.
Thank you. Would you like me to turn that off for?
Hey, you can, yeah. Okay, so if you want to turn the. And yeah. And you will have 5 minutes to share information about yourself and why you want to serve on the board. And Kim will be the timekeeper. She'll announce when 1 minute remains and when your time is up.
All right, thank you. And for those who don't know me, my name is Vince Adams. I'm a board development specialist with the Oregon School Boards Association, and I used to be on the school board. I want to reflect just for a moment. Shauna, I think I was sitting in the seat that you're in right now when Ed Junkins, he used to be a former board member and former city councilor, shared with this board the firsthand experiences of black boys in our school district. I think this was pre-pandemic by a bit. We had just gotten our first iteration of youth truth data. And tonight I was just impressed with the courage and grace of this body, and how you are willing to continue that work and how the district has continued that work. It's emblematic of the reason why I want to rejoin the board. I thought when my term was over that I was done. And over the intervening year, I realized that I really, really miss doing this work and doing the work that this board does. And so that's one of the reasons why I applied for this position. The other is that I was recruited. We have a strong tradition here in Corvallis that once you're off the school board, you leave and you keep your mouth shut. And I've held to that, and I feel pretty strongly about that. So those are the whys. Why am I applying? One, because I want to do this work, and I want to do this work with this board, and that it would be deeply satisfying to do that. Since I have your attention, and for those of you who haven't served with me, I want to share a little bit of how I do my work. And so there's a topic. You guys have received 2 really important reports in the last month. One on enrollment and the other on housing. And both portend a significant problem for this district that's going to impact your ability to fulfill your strategic priorities. The 2 of these, the enrollment decline, we've been watching this for a number of years. It's something that's not a surprise for the board or the district. It's something that the board members have been advocating for in the community, and thankfully, the community development director shared a little bit of good news. It feels like maybe the log jam that's holding back housing development in our community might be breaking up a little bit. That said, it's going to take time. You're probably looking at a U-shaped recovery with regards to enrollment. The problem is going to go away soon. What's going to happen probably is that you're going to continue to see enrollment to decline, and it may continue to accelerate. That means declining resources for the district. This presents a number of problems. It means that you're going to have to probably consider closing schools and redistribute enrollment. These have profound implications for the board because that has to be a thoughtful and community engaged process. I'm having flashbacks of 2020, just before the pandemic, when we tried to do that, and it was very challenging. The other thing is that, 1 minute, that went so fast. Anyway, the take home here is that you can't just get rid of schools, you got to keep them. So you have to keep them in a state that you can repopulate them, because we will eventually build housing here. It's pretty clear, both politically and from a policy standpoint, that we're going to be doing that. So it's a more complex question than just undeveloping. It's rolling back and then redeveloping our district. And how do we do that while creating multiple pathways for students and advancing our priorities? So this is the type of approach that I would use. Let me check my notes here to make sure I covered everything. I think I did. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Vince. Board members, remember we won't be asking any follow-up questions at this time, and you can follow Kelly back up. Thank you. Okay. So you just turn on the button on your right, and the red light will be on when your mic's on.
Okay.
Okay. You will have 5 minutes to share information about yourself and why you want to serve on the board. And Kim will be the timekeeper.
Okay.
She'll announce when you have 1 minute remaining and when your time is up.
Okay, sounds good. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you to the Corvallis School Board members, district administration, my fellow candidates, and the community for your time. Well, this is not how I picture spending my election night. I am happy to be speaking with you all tonight, nonetheless. I'm Amanda Bressler, she, her. I currently work at OSU in the School of Writing, Literature, and Film. I'm a mom to 2 great kids at Bessie Coleman Elementary School, and for a year I was also a Crescent Valley mom when we hosted a Swiss exchange student last school year. For more than a decade, I was a librarian in public libraries. In Boston, I was a children's librarian and then a department manager. After I moved to Oregon, I was assistant director at the Albany Public Library. I left that position 2 years ago and took a job at OSU to be closer to my kids and my community here in Corvallis. Now I'm going to talk to you about 4 topics: public service, good governance, diversity, and kids, that I have dedicated my time and efforts to in the past and that I believe will benefit this board and our schools. Being a public servant so embedded in the communities I served in as a librarian was one of my greatest honors. I saw firsthand the difference high-quality public services, even ones delivered on a shoestring at times, could make in the lives of people from all backgrounds. I wish I had more time to talk about some of the especially moving moments in my career, but I'll just say that my countless experiences over the years in the library reminded me of why I love public service. In this spirit, I also feel a kinship with the public schools, as I think we all, teachers, support staff, administration, the board, share that connection and commitment to the communities we work in. It's not always easy. In fact, it's often very difficult. For all the wonderful moments in my career, I had to deal with angry patrons, book challenges, proposals to close library locations, and a worldwide pandemic. I understand that working for the public comes with highs and lows and that it can be hard. But I also know that we can do hard things. In my career in library administration, I got a front row seat to how good governance and good management go hand in hand. I do believe my experience in public administration will have its benefits on the governance side, especially in policy and budgeting. I take public input very seriously. I designed and led the first ever strategic planning process for the Albany Public Library. I led public listening sessions, conducted surveys, and met with the board, staff, stakeholders, all in an effort to get as much public input as possible. I'm extremely proud of the transparency of that process and the time we took to really engage the community, and in particular, develop our mission, vision, and values to guide our decision-making. I also take the stewardship of public funds very seriously. Everyone in our community contributes financially to our schools, puts a great deal of trust in us to use those funds to the greatest benefit. I can think of few public investments more important to our community and our society than an investment in public education. I believe deeply that the strength and effectiveness of a board relies on the diversity of its members and their experiences and opinions. I experienced this for myself when I served on the Randolph Caldecott Award Committee with 15 other colleagues of different ages, races, religions, and LGBTQ identities from around the country.
We wrestled with tough personal topics covered in the books that also overlapped with our personal experiences while listening compassionately to each other's perspectives. In my case, I was able to bring my perspective as a Jewish woman to these discussions. The result was an incredibly diverse slate of award books that we could all be proud of as a committee. And as a committee, we bonded and operated with great trust. Related to diverse books, I just want to state that as a board member and as a citizen, I will always defend the right of students to have access to books on a variety of topics. I wish this could go without saying, but it's obviously been a problem across the country. I'll always defend access to books from racially diverse authors and LGBTQIA authors, and books on difficult topics that can help students walk safely in someone else's shoes. I participated in a lot of leadership trainings over the course of my career, and a recurring theme was finding and following your why, your purpose, or the thing that motivates you. For much of my adult life, my whys have been building community and improving kids' lives. Whether in my various roles as a mom, a children's librarian, a neighbor, a volunteer, an advocate, it has always been for the kids. Being on the school board would simply be another extension of that why, another way to ensure that I and our community are doing our best for our kids. The thing about whys is once you figure them out, you move on to the how and the what. I've given you my why, and with a seat on the Corvallis School Board, I hope we can figure out the why and the what together. Thank you for your time and attention, and I hope I get a chance to answer your questions in the next round. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Board members, remember we won't be asking follow-up questions yet, and you can follow Kelly out. Oh, that's right. Yes, we're voting. Okay, you all can start writing your top two at this time. Should we wait till they all come in to announce all this? Okay, let's wait till they come in. Okay, so that was the first round. Thank you all for participating in that part. Each board member will now write down the names of 2 candidates they would like to advance and pass them to me. Okay, since we started with Sammy last time, we're gonna start with Chris this time.
I just have to say, are you sure we can't add 4 more seats to the school board? Because that'd be really great. My 2 are Bernie and Vince. I'm sorry? Bernie and Vince.
Yeah, I don't like this. Inman and Adams.
Wong and Inman.
Wong and Inman.
Adams and Bressler.
So we have 3 that'll move on to the, Oh, 4. Oh, no, that's
Okay, so the folk who will be moving on to the next round for the questions is Bernie, Cassie, and Vincent. Thank you so much, Amanda, for being part of the process. And for this next part, you three will now go back to with Kelly. There's a lot of walking tonight. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the time. And yes, Judah, this is a very difficult process. It's very nerve-wracking. And like we shared with the other folk too, we thank you for being here this evening, Amanda, and I invite you to participate in other ways with the board. And I mentioned to the other folk too that anybody can run for the seats that are coming up too. So just as a reminder, we're going to skip me in the questions since there's not enough questions for everybody for the board. Oh yeah, do we have? I only have two. Do I have three? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have 3.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, sorry.
It's a very long script. So this is the next phase, which is the finalist interviews. And each board member will ask you one question. You have 2 minutes to answer each. Kim will be the timekeeper again, and she'll announce when 30 seconds remain and when the time is up.
Okay.
And Sammy's going to start. Oh yeah, we're trying to make this as accessible as possible, folks. So we will have the questions up. So.
Why are you seeking a seat on this Corvallis school board?
I think I mentioned that in my personal statement. I think being a part of the community is extremely important to me. The school district and just seeing what it has done, specifically with my eldest, and how he thrived in the school district. And also having taken part in TDAC and Delta and DEDI, I really see the great work being done by the school district. And I see the Corvallis School District is not just about education. It is the common denominator for the community. And it plays a central role in Corvallis, and that's why I want to get involved.
Thank you.
In your own words, what is the role of a school board member?
A school board member is a public servant. You represent the people of the school district. And I think the best way I can describe it, I actually use that to describe my former career too, is, shipbuilding, leadership, stewardship, and then relationships. So basically being a school member is all 3 of those. You lead, whether you lead from the front, from the rear, or from anywhere, but relationship building is a major part of it. The bridge, like I mentioned in my opening statement, to a lot of the community, and collaboration is the key. A lot of our problems can't be solved by the school district, by this board. It has to be done externally. So that is important, and stewardship is really key, because we are, it's not our money, Our children's lives are important, and that's what we need to be doing as public servants, is to be a good steward to all the resources. And even especially in times where we have limited resources, we have to make sound and good decisions based on that. Thank you.
All right, my question has two parts, so I'll read each one, but if you need a pause in the middle to be reminded of the second, happy to do that, if that's allowed. Oh,
It's up there.
perfect. So what is your favorite part of working on a team towards a larger goal for others, as the first? And then how do you address misunderstanding in team situations?
I think my favorite part of working in a team and trying to solve big problems, it's something that drove me and why I stayed in the Navy for so long. It's always a group of people trying to work towards finding a solution to difficult problems, right? Whether you're planning a extensive operation or planning how to execute your annual budget, defense budget, those are all things that we have to work together, talking with each other, getting ideas, and seeking, and just find the solution or come up with some degree of a solution, courses of action where we can keep moving forward. I love working with in a team because it's about ideas. It's about everybody's equal. Everybody has valid points and different perspectives. Where I'm maybe blind in some areas, some other people can cover that. And so that was basically my leadership style in the Navy as well. I pick great teams and people who challenge me all the time. How do I address misunderstandings in team situations? The key is to communicate, right? The key is to listen. The key is to figure out what the other team member is saying, knowing that they have the same goals as I have to find a solution, and then be receptive and be humble when the point of view is more correct than mine. So that basically is how we do it, is just communicate, communicate, communicate.
What qualities or insights can you contribute that would add new dimensions to our district's goals and policies?
I spent a better part of the last 2 decades doing policy work and international policy work. And also, I think a couple other things that I bring to the district, just a broad worldview I've gotten over time. I think I mentioned in my opening statement that I'm a first-generation American. I identify with a lot of the marginalized segments of the school district because of how I came up. And I also have worked with extreme diverse groups of people in the Navy. I've had people from all backgrounds, races, and that perspective allowed me to figure out what people want. And finally, I think in terms of the skill set side, I have extensive budgetary experience, just working on multi-million-dollar budgets, defense budgets. I thoroughly understand in budget situations, sometimes the challenge is not what to cut, but understanding that when you don't have any discretionary funds to use, then you ask the hard questions of, what is it you want us to stop doing? And that is a perspective that I bring with me. I understand that we can't have everything, and we just have to find the best solution given the circumstances we have, and be able to do what we want with the resources we have.
Thank you. Bernie, other than budget, what is the single most pressing issue currently facing the Corvallis School District? And what do you think will be our biggest challenge over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think the budget issue is going to be the overarching issue. But it's not something, like I said, is this board can solve. I mean, the housing situation, attracting younger families over here. But what we can focus on, and I think the other pressing issue right now is mental health of our students, being able to give them access to care when they need to. We just saw in the report coming earlier with the bias reporting that there are still issues out there, the trauma that may be happening with the students, and we want to give them the best resources available to solve some of those. Is that going to be our biggest challenge 5 to 10 years? It's going to be an ongoing challenge. I mean, the fact that I'm still hearing about bias incidents now, it's almost disheartening, but I think we are moving along as a community, and I think teaching children, giving them the care they need, and also giving access to our more marginalized communities is going to be critical. Giving them the support, like, for example, our immigrant populations, immigrant students, that they would have access to mental health care that is culturally appropriate and sensitive to their context is also very important. But I think no matter what, all of those things are built on top of the budget issue. And that is going to be what we call a wicked problem that we're going to have to find a way around.
Okay, thank you, Bernie. Board members, remember we won't be asking any follow-up questions at this time, and Kelly will take you away.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tie my shoes. When I get up, I don't forget.
Okay, well, welcome back. You got to press the thing so the transfer.
Right?
Yeah, there you go. So at this stage, you're at the finalist interviews, and each board member will ask you one question. You'll have 2 minutes to answer each. Kim will be the timekeeper again, and she'll announce when 30 seconds remain, and when the time is up, we will also have the questions on the screen, just for accessibility reasons. Yeah.
So above your
Yeah.
heads. Excellent.
And we're going the same order? Sure. It's up to you.
Hello, why are you seeking a seat on the Corvallis School Board?
Thank you for that question. So I shared a little bit in my introductory. I have 3 very clear missions. But I think what you're asking is what makes me your best choice? Like, why? Why am I here? And I would answer that I'm a public education advocate, and my policy research is a form of advocacy. I study narratives in the public policy process, and advocacy is about storytelling. Part of advocacy is framing policy and narrative. That's how we communicate to the public and institutions what we're doing. And this is the stories of how we triumph. It's about our struggles. It's the villains we face. It's the heroes that we need to solve problems. And I believe that narrated effectively, we can actually change policy beliefs. So if we effectively tell a story, we can we can gain political, social, economic support. We can help people understand the value of public education and what we can do for our kids. I want to give back. I mean, the obvious answer to this is I'm here because I want to volunteer. I believe in volunteering in the community, at my school, the district schools. I'm also a bit of a policy wonk, as I've said. I look forward to the hours and late nights that we will sit here reviewing policy. So, yeah.
Okay. In your own words, what is the role of a school board member?
So the role of the school board is to set high-level policy. That's the goals for the district. And from that come specific policies regarding curricula, regarding budget decisions, and as I understand it as well, to the choice of the superintendent. And school boards are policy makers, so rather than implementing or administering policy, they're creating it, they're interpreting it, they're expressing it, and evaluating policy so that our systems function better. So. Okay, so this question.
Yeah, so the next question has two parts. The first being, what is your favorite part of working on a team towards a larger goal for others? And the second, how do you address misunderstanding in team situations?
So my favorite part about working as a team is being able to listen and hear how other people perceive things differently than I mean, that's a process. We have to learn that in life. I think it's part of maturing, being able to understand that there's something bigger than us that we might not necessarily see. And so, for example, on a group project, I'm a PhD student, so working on a larger project that benefits our department, you get to see how other people see things, and you can like put on their glasses and see and opportunities. The second half of your question, how do you address misunderstandings? Again, I think it goes back to listening. In a school board situation or other types of policy environments, we have strict rules and like Robert's Rules of Order, which create space for listening and also thinking and consideration and space, and that helps. It creates a layer of space between the misunderstandings so that people can feel heard and we can address problems before they escalate. Yeah, it's kind of like fire extinguisher, kind of, sort of. Yeah.
What qualities or insights can you contribute that would add new dimensions to our district's goals and policies?
So I guess I would go back to the idea of advocacy and research, policy research experience. I've literally for 7 years, this is what I've been doing, is studying public policy here in the district, learning how to listen to people and ask what they want so that we can assure that our policies are effectively addressing the needs of folks. So I think that quality of being able to listen, research, and understand the complicated nature of policy, but also really the basic level of storytelling and how, I mean, it's about characters, you know, it's like our favorite movie. There's somebody out there who needs help, the kids need help, the staff needs help, the district needs help. I mean, public education is under attack and funding issues. We need to find solutions. So I think that would be my greatest quality I would bring.
Cassie, other than budget, what is the single most pressing issue currently facing the Corvallis School District, and what do you think will be our biggest challenge over the next 5 to 10 years?
So actually did a little due diligence on that one. I was reading over the district report cards, and I was realizing that there was a story there. There's a story, and maybe this isn't the biggest story, but it was a story that I saw from the district report card of there are some issues with declining attendance and student engagement. Our 3rd grade ELA and our 8th grade math scores are lackluster. Our 9th grade on track to graduate and regular attendance rates have both declined. I think there was a 5% decline. And while our report card is only slightly better than the state average, together these facts and figures, they narrate this story of decline and, of course, increased barriers. So what do we do? We go to our goals, right? And our district profile shows us that it's families who are navigating homelessness, poverty, and other marginalized identities who seem to be at the greatest risk of falling through the safety net. And what I noticed when reviewing the 4 goals in the 5-year plan is that these families and students are clearly addressed there. So the district is making efforts to target the right folks. What I also note is that methods that are outlined by the state already include many of the overarching goals that our district is using. And I think combining them along with prioritizing attendance. I attended the meeting a few weeks back where the Oregon School Board Association was talking about this focus on chronic absenteeism. And I think that if we combine that with the 5-year goals that we have, we'll be able to meet the state goals effectively and reverse that decline, that story of decline that I saw.
Okay, thank you, Cassie. And board members, as a reminder, we won't be asking follow-up questions, and you can follow Kelly out. Okay, well, welcome back to the finalist stage. Each board member will ask you one question. You will have 2 minutes to answer each. Kim will be the timekeeper again. She'll announce when 30 seconds remain and when time is up. Okay. And we will also have the questions on the screen for you. We're trying to have some accessibility for questions.
Okay.
Yeah. And
awesome.
We're going to switch them. Is that okay? Okay, Chris is going to start this time.
Okay, Chris.
Thank you. I would have done. Vince, why are you seeking a seat on the Corvallis School Board?
I kind of spoke to that previously. I mean, twofold. One, I mean, I wouldn't have stepped in had people not nudged me to do so. But since they did, I was openly eager to step back into doing the work that this board has been doing. Because you're here in Corvallis, you don't have the perspective that I have, being an employee of OSPA. I work with boards all over the state. And I've said it numerous times in this boardroom, this is a unique board, this is a unique district, because you're doing really extraordinary work transforming the education system. You're doing the work that needs to get done. And I mean, and the proof is there. I mean, the Corvallis School District, there's, you have a member who's on NSBA. He's the president of our state association. I'm an employee. This board consistently punches above its weight, to use a boxing metaphor. And that's one of the reasons why I would really be eager to step back onto the board, because this board has impacts on kids. They're actually taking what I teach to boards, the education science on what school boards should be doing, you guys actually do that. So that's why I want to get back in the game. So it's personal, but it's all about impact. So I want to have an impact on kids, and I want to support this board in doing that work. And if you feel, if the wisdom of the board is that I'm the right person to do that, great. So,
In your own words, what is the role of a school board member?
Fundamentally, a school board member is a steward. It's really, I mean, really to participate in what is the governing body, a group of people. Fundamentally, board work is teamwork, particularly in the 21st century. I think historically, board conflict had less of an impact. Today, with the expectations on K-12 educations and correspondingly on school boards, the role of a school board member is increasingly more important in establishing the tone, setting a clear direction, and setting the priorities of the district. But I really want to come back to that idea of not the individual, but being part of a whole governing body, and that is 1/2 of the leadership unit for the district, because the board is the yin to the superintendent's yang, the governance to the management side of things. I could go wax more poetic about the importance of the administrative professional and how that impacts them, but yeah, fundamentally it's about being part of a leadership team.
Thank you, Vince. What is your favorite part of working on a team towards a larger goal for others? And second part of this question, how do you address misunderstanding in team situations?
Working on a team. So, impact. What's the favorite part of working on a team towards a larger goal is about impact. And in this context, it's about making a difference for kids. So that's the favorite part of this, is actually changing education outcomes, changing the lived experience of students, and how our district serves students and creates opportunity. That's the favorite part of this work. How do you address misunderstandings is really about dialogue, is unpacking that. A great example, in the work, a good example of how to do this, I teach point of order. I have time, good enough. The parliamentary procedure, point of order, interrupts a meeting, right? So I use an example from this school board, a time when a member of this board used a really harmful idiom. And one of our members used point of order to stop and allow this governing body to take a pause and discuss that for about 4 minutes before we moved on. So that was a matter of misunderstanding. A person used a harmful idiom. The English language, particularly American English, is full of it. So really just taking the time to communicate that, communicate the impact, because intent is not impact, and come to mutual understanding about what those expectations are. And particularly with the school board, what the body's expectations are for conduct and how we're going to do our work together.
What qualities or insights can you contribute that would add new dimensions to our district's goals and policies?
I think the things that I'm just going to start riffing. I think one of the things that I would bring back is what I shared in my opening remarks, is the long view. I got on this board in 2013, and so I can see the changes, the work that this board has done, that this district district has done. I lived it. And so I think that's important. I think we need historians. And I think that's an important role. That said, in the year that I've been away from the school board, I have redoubled the work that I've done around equity. I have learned to integrate the equity work that this board has done in my own personal journey in doing that work with this board into my professional work, particularly around, stepping away from race. But, right now I also sit on the CARDVA board, so stepping into issues of gender and particularly the violence around that and how to address that. That's a new step in my own personal journey. But learning how to operationalize equity governance is something that I would really like to bring back to this board and support this board in doing that. And I'm happy to do that on the board or as a consultant. So, but that's something that I really would like to bring back to this board. Is not that you guys have lost focus. Clearly you haven't, but we all know that there's work to be done, and I would like to help lead in that work.
Other than the budget, what is the single most pressing issue currently facing the Corvallis School District, and what do you think will be our biggest challenge over the next 5 to 10 years?
That's what I was talking about earlier. I mean, I didn't know if I was going to get back on the board, so I wanted to share some value with you, at least the thoughts that I had. This issue around housing and enrollment decline is an existential threat to the district. It has profound implications on how we're going to be able to deliver services for our children, and it has implications for our staff. I am really worried about our ability to maintain staffing and maintain programming. Our community has very high expectations for the level of education that we deliver. We do provide elite education to our students. And I'm really worried about that and how to do that. It's going to require hard decisions and difficult processes to do it. This board historically has not been great with being engaged community-wise. You have continued that work. I really appreciate the work you did around your strategic planning and setting your goals. That was a very engaged process, definitely checking in. But when we start talking about which school are we going to close, how are we going to shift our boundaries and move children, how are we going to change patterns of transportation, that's going to require a lot of engagement, and the school board is going to be front and center in doing that work.
Thank you, Vince. Board members, remember we won't be asking any follow-up questions, and you can go ahead and stay in the room while Kelly gets the rest of the candidates for this next part. Put a fan off. Okay, this is our fourth step. So each board member will now write down the name of their top candidate and pass the paper to me, and Kim will tally the hash marks. I don't think we're going to do this very super quickly, so thank you all for your patience in advance, unless people are already done, I'm not sure. But well, you looked at me, Judah, like you're dead. Judah's like, okay, we're thinking over here, so thank you for your patience. Okay, before we read these, or before we announce them, I would just want to say, like, whatever the results are, that we would be excited to serve with any of you. That's pretty clear. So I don't remember who started last time. Sam, you get to go first.
Since we're doing polling, we're not voting. Can I just say this is really hard?
It is very hard, but
I will be very excited to work with each one of you in the room, and with that, I am making a really tough decision to choose a colleague here, and today I'm choosing Vince Adams.
I choose Cassie Inman.
Bernie Wong.
I would have liked to have cast 3 votes, but I wrote down Bernie Wong.
It's really hard. Inman.
It was really difficult, but I voted for Bernie. Bernie.
Okay, let me read my script. Again, this is very hard. It was been hard since the very since the first step. And okay, so does anybody wish to make a motion to appoint someone?
Chair.
Yes, Sammy.
It is my honor to move with the following motion. I move that Bernie Wong be appointed to vacant position number 7 of the Corvallis School District Board of Directors for the term November 5, 2024 through June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Sammy and seconded by Therese. Is there any further discussion?
Just want to thank everyone. I didn't like doing that. You're all wonderful.
Any other?
Just, can you clarify? So how we have this written out is that if we have a clear leader, that's what we're going with, right? That's what we
Yeah.
decided? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Wanted
that's
to
on
make sure
the-
that I was right about that we weren't opening up discussion for anything else.
No.
Okay, very good. I'm glad that that's what I thought. I'm glad for that. And I thank everybody who participated, and you all had wonderful answers, and so please run if you are interested, or fill that vacant seat on the budget committee, because that's how I started. I think that's how Sammy started. Shauna. So as you can see, budget committee work often leads to an opportunity to serve on the board. And thank you all for your time this evening.
Good, Sammy.
It is not lost on me that we're casting a really privileged vote on behalf of the community of Corvallis in this interim period to appoint a colleague. And in the evening where every single citizen is making a decision of who's going to represent them. So Bernie, if this motion passes, congratulations on this amazing honor and responsibility, and for each one of you who participated in this process. Thank you for making this evening even more fulfilling for me personally, because I know in many communities and districts and nations, frankly, people don't have that privilege of really having this kind of capacity to serve the children and to represent the children, to represent the community. So with that, in favor of this motion, but also full of gratitude about the future of our community, state, and country. And I know the kids are going to be okay because of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so it has, I'm used to I'm used to a very scripted script for meetings, and this is a very different. there's a lot of scripts going on my table here because we also had an executive session. So I'm going to go ahead and reread the motion and then call for vote. So Sammy moved that Bernie Wong be appointed to vacant position number 7 of the Corvallis School District Board of Directors for the term November 5th, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. It was seconded by Therese. Chris?
Aye.
Judah?
Aye.
Shauna?
Aye.
Therese?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So the motion passes. I am pleased to announce that our interim board member is Bernie Wong. His duties will be effective November 5th through 2024 through June 30th, 2025. Thank you again to all the candidates for participating in this very important process. This is a very tough process. I was in their shoes when I first started, and actually I didn't share this earlier, but Shauna and I were finalists together and look at us now. So I'm just saying, you can hopefully find your way to the board in the future as well, and when that time comes. And so, what was that? Yes, yeah, that's next. Swearing, I'm going to say, would Bernie like to come forward and be sworn in? I don't have that script. Kim, where's that at?
I've got it right here. I'm going to hand it to you in just a moment.
Okay, thank you.
Where's this happening?
Yeah.
We're going to go hang out in the middle.
Okay. There you go.
Okay, I think we both can share this one. Is it on the? Y'all can hear us? Okay. Okay, Bernie, please repeat the following after me, Chair
Okay.
Whitebear. I repeat your name, do solemnly swear
I, Bernard Wong, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon and the laws thereof,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon and the laws thereof,
and the policies of the Corvallis School District.
and the policies of the Corvallis School District.
During my term,
During my term,
I will faithfully and impartially discharge the responsibilities
I will faithfully and impartially discharge the responsibilities
of the office of school board member to the best of my ability.
of the office of the school board member to the best of my ability.
And that's it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And where? Oh my gosh, there's so. I'm so sorry. I do not need a gavel. Yes. I need a conch shell. That's right. Okay. So we have completed our interim board selection. And the next item on the agenda, there is a next item actually, and it is board member comments. Are there any board member comments?
I'm going to the pancake feed hosted by the Robotics Club tomorrow at the Elks. So if you like pancakes and or robotics, and I like both, you can go.
Any other board member comments?
Just wanted to give a thank you to the community members who took the time to weigh in on what they felt or what their thoughts were on the interim board candidate position. And when you have 7 qualified people and only 1 seat, 6 people are not going to be appointed. But it means a lot to us as board members to hear from the community. And so just want to extend that appreciation. So yeah, for those of you that took time, keep sending the messages, and thank you for taking time to weigh in on this.
And I just wanted to reiterate what I said earlier. I know that this is a very tense evening for a lot of folk. And as I was reading the oath of office again, that I myself has sworn in as well with Bernie, it just reminded me of the responsibility that comes with being an elected official. And you've been appointed, the community trusts us to appoint you in that capacity as electeds in this community. And so it was a good reminder reading that on this evening. And so I just wanted to say, take care of yourselves, community out there and in this room. And with that, the meeting is adjourned at 8:53 p.m.